Well, the defense gives its closing arguments in Joaquin El Chapo Guzman's trial today. Yesterday, the prosecution gave its closing arguments, calling its case an avalanche of evidence, Anne-Marie.
The jury listened again to phone calls. They saw text messages and other evidence. The defense says the allegations against the drug lord are made up. So for more on this, we are joined by attorney Paul Batista. So, Paul, an avalanche of evidence. I mean...
Well, they usually
Kind of.
say a mountain of evidence. Sometimes they say an avalanche of evidence. They never say anything different. It's very, very common.
I mean, most of this trial was the prosecution building their case.
Well, that's true of every case. But most of this trial, let's not forget, was the testimony of cooperating witnesses who are in custody and who are looking for leniency. Of course, the government doesn't say that. It focuses, in substance, what it focused on yesterday were certain recorded statements by El Chapo, the validity of some of which he disputes. He has a second-grade education. They needed an interpreter from the FBI to interpret what he was saying, and a voice expert to attempt to identify that it was in fact his voice, when the FBI has said voice expert testimony is junk science. So
I was intrigued by the fact that the prosecutors spent a lot of time explaining the first 10 counts against El Chapo.
Yes.
Why did they do that? What was the goal? What are they trying to tell the jury?
Well, you know, most indictments, most major indictments will contain 58 counts. And by the time they reach the end of the trial, they focus on, they dismiss many of the irrelevant or redundant accusations and try to focus the jury on what they believe to be the crucial allegations that they've proved. There's nothing unusual about that.
That's interesting. But throughout the course of this trial, were they able to make the case that all of those things that happened to export drugs into the United States and around the world, he directly played a part in it? Because you could have, I mean, it's the whole Godfather defense, right? You never make any phone calls. What I tell you, it's just my word against your word, and then you'd send it to somebody else, and that person tells somebody else, and so that way there's no connection. That's the whole point of that mafia way of running business.
That is the mafia way of running business. And another factor in El Chapo's defense, so to speak, and we'll probably hear of that today from Mr. Lichtman, his defense lawyer, is this country is inundated by drugs.
Right.
It is still inundated by drugs. El Chapo's been out of the business for 4 years, and yet the importation continues. It's like saying the Atlantic coast has a lot of water. And the evidence that links him to that flood, so to speak, of drugs coming into the United States, in my opinion, as a defense lawyer, is not particularly compelling.
This is interesting because Ricky Kleeman is sort of like, he's done. But part of the reason that Ricky says that he's done is because of all the counts, and if he gets found guilty on any one of those counts, we won't see him again for the rest of his life.
Yeah, and he is likely to be convicted. Ricky and I have known each other for almost 30 years, and we tend to agree on a lot of things. Although I predicted O.J. Simpson's acquittal, and she didn't.
We should have you guys on together.
I always hold that against her.
That'd be great. That would be great. Just real quick, do you think that if he is convicted, does he go to jail here in the U.S. or does he go to jail? He goes to jail here, right?
Oh, he'll go to what's known as the Supermax facility.
Right. Because if he doesn't get convicted, then he goes to jail. He goes back for trial in Mexico.
But
well, he's already been tried in Mexico.
Yeah, he's still supposed to be in prison in Mexico. He escaped a couple times.
He has a life prison sentence in Mexico. He may want to serve it here in the United States.
So crazy.
Paul,
Paul.
thank you so much, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Thank you.